thing sucks.
And we're live.
And we're live.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to B.I.G. Just starting off the bat, sounds like Jordan has some beef with a couple of people calling him out. Jordan, what's going on?
I don't know who that, like, do we want to just roll straight in on this when there's like two people listening? Do we want to, should I save it a few minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do we want to have beef in the matters of chicken?
Better question.
Matter of nuts.
What do you come up with this shit, man? Like what? You need to like make a book. It's like the Creed of Mizzy, and it's like all the Mizzy one-liners have gone viral.
Oh shit!
My God.
I mean, the first part of this is this. So this stream was at the Litecoin conference, which is like next to the Bitcoin conference, and these Litecoin guys are, they're talking about, they're like, at every Bitcoin ATM, you see Litecoin as well, because, we're just as useful and interoperable and everything. And like, I'm super impressed with the Litecoin community that they're still around. I'm not trying to FUD anyone, but I've been listening for years and years and years now to people telling me how Litecoin is the better Bitcoin and that's why it's going to moon. And like, they're still here, but I don't get it. It does. I don't. Can someone tell me why Litecoin? Can somebody?
Bro, the last time I got into Litecoin, like just news, it was the Miami Dolphins are accepting Litecoin as payment for things like merchandise, tickets for like the stadium. Or was it the Jaguars? This is one of those two. What are the two Florida teams? But I don't know, to be honest. Like, what do they do with Litecoin? Like, what is the point?
The whole idea is it's like has a very similar. So it's like early crypto, right? Like it has a very similar structure to how Bitcoin works, but it's like much more efficient to use it as a currency, right? But like that's not Bitcoin's problem. Like it's not expensive to send Bitcoin, right? Like relative. I mean, I don't a few bucks. Like, sure, it's not like a fraction of a cent, but like Bitcoin isn't a currency. You know what I mean? Like Bitcoin's a store of value. Like I think we have this is my personal opinion. I guess.
I was like, you gotta light some fires right now. If you say it's not a currency.
That's fine. Look, listen to how like Larry Fink, chief person in charge of the most money of anybody on the planet. He's out there selling Bitcoin as a store of value over time. Michael Saylor, chief proponent of Bitcoin of anyone on this entire planet. He talks about Bitcoin solely, store of value over time.
Mizzy, chief jackass of Web3 gaming, looks at Bitcoin as a store of value over time.
See?
What about Max Kaiser? What does he think?
And, if you want to talk about like currencies, it's going to be freaking government run stable coins, right? So like, what's Litecoin for? They're still here, but like, are they still the future? Are they like the cockroaches of the crypto ecosystem where you can't kill them and they're going to be around forever? Again, no shade on Litecoin. I just I haven't heard a new message from them in 10 years.
Litecoin has a very, very important place in the utility in this market, and it's called normie exit liquidity. I always throw a little bag into Litecoin. I'm not even trolling. I really do, because I know normies, when they open up that crypto app for the first time, they're like, "Oh, this sounds good," and they're gonna buy it, and it's guaranteed profits every time.
So
I still have some Litecoin sitting in my Coinbase from like 2018.
So I just looked up news for Litecoin. They added 1 million addresses in 7 months, and Fidelity might make an ETF.
An ETF that doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's a product that people can trade, but why that one? Like, why?
Right. Why is any institutional investor saying, "Oh, I want to allocate some of our money into cryptocurrency"? They see Bitcoin, they see Ethereum. Why are they putting something into Litecoin? Like, there'll be these guys on this space, they were talking about like that it'll be included in a basket where you have an ETF with a variety of cryptos in it, and it's going to be one of them. And I'm like, is this your argument?
So that makes sense to me. I do think that there will be a basket of currencies for ETFs, and it's going to be like there could be like a basket of meme coins, there could be a basket of blue chips, quote unquote, or utility. That I understand and agree with, but like Litecoin itself,
money.
Well, I mean, it's I don't know, like they do have baskets of currencies for like ETFs. That is a thing. I've seen
Yeah,
before,
no, I
but-
know. I just like, is that actually going to outperform just holding Bitcoin?
That's a very, very tough.
I guess that's
argument.
their question, right?
That's tough. I don't know. That's very speculative. But I will say this: I know the utility of Bitcoin. I don't know what the utility of Litecoin is.
All right. You have to develop a game based around Litecoin branding.
Oh God.
Go quick.
Yeah,
That sounds like a Tom Clicker
Litecoin
game
Dash.
to me.
Litecoin Dash.
Light Dash, light
Dash?
your coins.
that's the
Yo, what's up, BB?
Yo,
Just wanna
I
shout
love
out
his
BB.
hat color too, and the Yankees representation as a New
Yeah,
York.
what's up with that, bro?
This is a
They're a
Yankee.
good
This
team.
is a Yankee company right here. Let's go.
JRP has many faces. He's Bagel Man. Now he's Yankee fan. Like, what is this?
many faces. Bagel Man is my number one though.
You're looking clean too. You've got a clean shave going on.
Yeah, man. You got a date? What's going on, man?
I got a date actually on Saturday. It's gonna be fun.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
He's not.
He did.
Man, we can't.
I believed you.
He's like, I'm a free spirit. I don't date.
Women date me. I don't date women.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like
He tells them about his Litecoin.
Yeah. I'm trying to like. The only thing that I've seen is just like obviously that it's more consumer oriented Bitcoin. Like, and I don't think that anyone can really make
What does that mean?
Just that like the gas prices are lower, right? And so like but more people can like interact with it. The thing is that like you can still do that with Satoshis, right? Like that's just like that's it.
Oh, that's how you know my boy's portfolio's up. As soon as somebody starts calling Bitcoin Satoshis, they're up. Well done. Well done. I'm
Couldn't you
happy
make
to
the
hear
argument-
it. Get that
couldn't
bread,
you-
bro.
Can you make the argument that Litecoin is the first meme coin because it was a
Yes.
lighter version of Bitcoin?
Yes.
I would say Bitcoin is the first meme coin. I don't know.
I agree. I agree. I think the
people have
biggest
built
meme,
legacy off of Bitcoin.
man. You guys are gonna hate me for saying this, but I think
No,
the biggest meme in crypto is that we still don't know who fucking invented it, but everybody's doxing themselves.
The biggest meme is mother. I'm kidding. I disavow it.
If we're
So
talking ass size, yeah.
Bitcoin is a Ponzi. Where like it is fundamentally a meme coin, but it's shown that a Ponzi with a critical number of people involved no longer has the risks of a Ponzi. Like it's no longer a Ponzi. It's like a very interesting trade-off. Or like Bitcoin with only 1,000 people holding it, no stability. Bitcoin with 1 billion people holding on it, more stability than any fiat currency on the planet. Like it's fascinating how, and maybe that number isn't 1 billion, but there's some critical mass of human beings collectively holding it, which will give it a stability that is greater than anything that's ever existed before in human history, as far as my beliefs go.
To me, Bitcoin is like a great example of what a Web3 economy should look like. Like it should take that long to develop, in my opinion, if you want it to be a true peer-to-peer marketplace, like peer-to-peer economy.
Well, let's talk about Web3 economies. Like for one, B3 announced $18 million
Look at this
raise
host over here.
and
Look at that.
looking to build a publishing model for hyper-casual games. I actually had the pleasure to talk to one of their founders who is announcing that they're going to be essentially launching mainnet. I believe it's going to be in August 3rd. And they're very much so connected to Base. But from the conversation that I had, like you would be able to connect to any chain. As someone who works for an infrastructure company, like I find a lot of things there that are iffy when it comes to connecting cross-chain, just because the languages underneath don't necessarily speak to each other. But what they're looking to do ultimately is to sign games that they believe in and then market for them on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and get more users for them, which is what we need in this space. I want to pass it off to Jordan because I think Jordan's going through a very interesting like moment in Eureka of figuring out like what is going to be the thing that is going to get him users. Jordan, have you ever thought about a publisher and someone who's like kind of building up a game? What do you think about publishing?
I gotta say, I like checked out B3. I kind of love everything they're doing right now. Because like I'm a really big believer in ship first, even though I do move very slowly. I think that if you have a model, instead of building it in a way where it's going to take millions of dollars and years to build the thing that proves it. Build something super cheap and quick and just like get it fucking out there and start working and then go from there. So like the B3, they have this like ecosystem of these super shitty looking little games, but they're less shitty or equally shitty to like Tom Clicker games, right? And what is interesting is like each one of them has like a token attached to it as its own game, and then that token interacts with their like master token basically. And so like what they have is this model that's super cheap to put a game out. It's not made or broken on any one of them. They're focusing on the ecosystem of it. They give each game itself its own token, the name of the game or something related to it that lets that game kind of like rise and fall and prove itself based on its own metrics. The whole thing works together. And these guys aren't full of promises about the future. The thing is like working right now in its initial state. And like that, I really don't get super bullish. Like you don't hear me sitting over here being like, oh yeah, I'm so bullish on such and such project. They sound great. Like I really don't do that. But like like I don't have to imagine. Like I'm very bullish on the actual actions and strategy that they seem to be taking from my 5-minute, little view on it. I think publishers are like literally critical to us succeeding as an industry, or to us being the ones who succeed when our industry succeeds. Us being our current cabal of, Web3 builders that are the ones figuring all this out, right? Like we don't want to figure this out and then, Activision goes and makes billions of dollars off of crypto games and we're all, out of work, right? We want to be laughing at Activision when they try to get us on the phone to take a meeting, right? So like that's our collective goal. And so I think it's like really, really important that we figure out publishing models that are fundamentally Web3 that let us compete in a different way to the existing publishers, where they can't just play the game, where we're playing a different game from them is how you win,
One of the things that
these guys are doing it.
One of the things I saw today was Pixel's Luke talking about like how to bring in money into like the game via ads to be like a publisher of ads themselves. Like Jordan, what do you think about that? And then Mizzy, like I know that you've said a lot about like Pixel's, like curious to hear your thoughts there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think their whole game is like built around like, hey, you have your own little land and you can put stuff on it, right? So like, and you can attract people to it in different ways. So it makes a ton of sense to include advertising on that. Like I'm going to have plenty of advertising in Eureka. Like everyone's going to be bidding on these ships. You're going to have a ship. You can do whatever the hell you want with your ship. If you want to put a logo on the sail and paint the whole thing a color and name it something, you're down. We'll do that with you. And I guess what I like about what Pixel said is that they don't want to give up any of the profit on that. They're like, we can just do it ourselves, right? That Roblox does that. Roblox has a massive internal ad network for people to promote their own games within Roblox to Roblox players. It's a huge revenue driver for them. So yeah, super smart.
Yeah.
So to, I guess, kind of like understand the question better, in regard, how are they using the ads to bring more players, or are they doing something similar to Roblox to help builders within Pixel?
So pretty much what Luke said was like the form of our marketing is to pay people to play our game, which like I think all of us have said in the past, like not super great, especially when the game is a Pixels game. The next thing was like then the real question is, can we lower our cost of acquisition? Because we're not spending on marketing, we're spending on paying players, but we're just funneling the money of people paying for ads to essentially acquire those users. Like, do you see that working? And that will Pixels be the one that figures it out?
I think it's an interesting way to look at things. I don't disagree with it, right? I've had a couple conversations with games in this space over the last like 40 to 72 hours in particular. A lot of them have done the strategies, like the KOL marketing strategies and all the strategies that most people have been doing with like little play airdrop here or there. And once the dust settled, one of them that I spoke to had, I think, like 600 daily active users. In my opinion, based on how much they spent on marketing, that was not effective, right? 600 daily active users after spending what I would estimate close to probably like 6 figures in marketing. Sure, they're not in their hype cycle anymore, but that still sucks that they only retain that amount of users. And they have like an openly playable game. So, and what they don't have is a very open play to earn economy, in my opinion. They went more of the fun route. They're trying to get people to do stuff with the token, but there's still not enough sinks, one, and two, there's no clear-cut way for people to just earn by playing the game. And then you have another game that I spoke to that I'm at liberty to just say out loud, Sparkball. They were on our show on Tuesday, and they were talking all about their gameplay loop. But one of the things that the founder said that really stuck with me is no one cares how fun our game is at the end of the day from an investor perspective, or even some of the gamers, right? Like everyone runs to play it, but they don't necessarily have the retention that they would like during their playtest periods, because at a certain point the earn mechanic isn't there. So what it's led me to kind of, this is a long-winded answer, but what it's led me to realize is product design goes beyond just the gameplay. It goes into economy design. It goes into the retention layer that you create with the assets and the tokens in the game and the ecosystem as well. And everyone keeps saying focus on product, focus on product, which is always alluded to just gameplay. But now I'm building a thesis where it's like, no, it's literally the whole fucking thing, right? With Pixels,
it's the whole thing.
Yeah, with Pixels, what I like is I obviously don't like the gameplay. I think it sucks, but their product design on the economy side seems to be working really well, right? And I would much rather, as a developer, overcook the economy side of my game and still have a player base to keep developing the game with than overcook the gameplay side and then have to pay absorbent amounts of monies to influencers, content creators, streamers, and things like that to attract players. If I can just do what Pixels is doing and essentially help my gamers make money, and that is like a more organic means of growth for a Web3 game. I still think in many ways it's like a zero-sum game, but it's like a lesser of two zero-sum games in the current market, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot happening, like with figuring out how a Web3 model works that we haven't figured it out, but I think we're starting to really quickly on B3, like 70% of all of their tokens that they're going to be minting in the next couple of weeks will actually go for game developers, right? So they have like a funnel for like game developers they sign with, and then they have a funnel of game developers that just want to build on their chain. And so I'm hoping that we see more people build, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Just shared.
What region is this based in? Like, are they doing this in North America, Europe, Asia? Like, what is the majority of the regions that they're targeting for this?
I mean, we've probably seen only a couple of blockchains be region specific, like Ancient 8. I think they're being global. Their team is based in Northern America, but they're launching in Asia. So that should give you an idea of like how they're thinking about it.
Because I'm just worried about the legality of it. And I'm sure that'll change like the next 2 to 3 years. Like, well, we won't really have that problem, but like, I'm just worried about like them getting, no action letter or whatever from the SEC.
Yeah, right.
I just shared this post that Jesus Martinez put up because I just saw it and it's hyper relevant to what we're talking about. And I really agree with him. He says, VCs don't invest into gaming coins for the gameplay. Retail doesn't invest into gaming coins for the gameplay. You're not investing into gaming coins for the gameplay. You're putting in your hard-earned money because the game is supposed to take care of you. This is Web3, not Web2. Prioritize community incentives and making lore within communities rather than just in games. You can have the best gameplay, but if you can't make revenue and don't focus on your token or NFTs, what's the point in investing? Communities need narratives to build games. I find a lot of games build in silence and randomly release large snippets without much context. You must give your community ammunition to fuel growth long term. This is exactly what Mizzy is just saying, more or less. That building a game in Web3 is a holistic venture. And there was an incredibly strong narrative a while ago in this industry. I don't know where everyone is falling on this, but I've pushed against it the whole time. That it's like, just build a good game and then, include NFTs or include a token. I think that is a genuine failure of a model. I think we're going to continue to see it fail because there is no reason to be in Web3 then. We have an entire other, there's so much other shit you can do. I am giving out gold nuggets, which people are collecting with a fervor because they believe that it's an early asset that'll let them get stuff to then let them not only have a gameplay advantage, but a massive financial advantage in the future for what I'm building. Without that second side of it, they wouldn't care about this. There wouldn't be nearly as many tools that I'd have to get them to care when I'm so early in the process of building my game. It's like so freaking powerful. And I think so many people are like building with like a hand tied behind their back and like one of their feet cut off and saying they're building in Web3 when they're not building in Web3. They're just, you know, they're building in Web2. And I just like, I don't think anyone is going to succeed with that. Separately, Sparkball is like freaking awesome. I played it for 2 hours last night. I feel like the retention issue might not be the tokenomics thing and might more be that the game is like very confusing and difficult to pick up. And you need Sam Stefania in your ear for 2 hours yelling at you to pass and how to play the game to like figure it out. I got better by like 1 a.m. It's honestly, it's around like itching. It's like a surprisingly inventive, interesting game concept. And they're not Web3 yet, but they're going to be. So I'm like very bullish on it, assuming they don't screw the pooch.
I also think that there's a lot of Web3 games that actually aren't like as much Web3 as they can be. I recently like talked to a lot of like a game that is, I would say, top 4 in the space, who's like, all right, cool, we're ready to go on chain. But they have an NFT project and they don't have like a token. And so what does that look like? It means like, to Mizzy's point as well, like it has to have syncs. Like you have to pair things together, but you can't pair things together if you don't know how it's going to work with each other. And so we'll hopefully see that a lot more. Everybody's been waiting for this, and I think it's taking a much longer period of time than people thought. And I agree with Jesus. Like we buy tokens to make money, and like people have to realize that like part of the reason to have a Web3 community is to keep that community happy, which is a really hard thing to do. We've all realized that for sure.
Because if you have a really happy, engaged community, it's like a superpower. You can, anything you want to do, you've got this whole crowd of people behind you yelling about how great it is. Like, it's amazing. Like, you know, build, nurture that.
One of the games that I've seen, I would love to hear Sir's like thoughts on this, is WAGME. Like, I've seen Mizzy talk about it. I've seen Hado talk about it. Like, even Sir, like, WAGME has these list of like creators and then starting to push out like their up and coming like game, or at least like update to the game that looks like very much so more cinematic. Yeah, Sir, we'd love to hear more about your thoughts there and everyone else who's kind of participating.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the Web3 side, you know, I mean, they do have a token. It's not super integrated with the game, but I think what they do have going very well for them is like their use case, like their NFTs. I mean, you play them in game, you can get them within game, super easy. You know, like they're using Mutable, so you know, the process is really nice. And more importantly, there's demand on them in the secondary market. And I think the game was really smart by making these things attractive, by creating multiple seasons and different layers of artwork. So from the collector side, I mean, these are fun to collect. There's different ones you want to collect, and then people are, and there's a demand for them. So, I mean, like you're playing the game for free, you're enjoying it. You know, you find out that like, oh, wow, this card I just picked up is actually worth a few bucks, you know, and then you start to dig into the whole backside of the secondary market. And I think that's what everyone's finding enjoying with that game specifically, and that is you know, what keeps you coming back and making the game enjoyable. I think another little anecdote as far as like gaming, even on the kind of preseason side with Wild World, you know, that was a game that I've been playing for, you know, last like 3 or 4 months, like their racing game, which has been really enjoyable. I understand that's, you know, they're still in testing, or at least like in, you know, beta. But then their most recent update, you know, they finally incorporated like the earning mechanisms for the game. And I mean, in the last like probably week, you know, like I've played like put in like 10 times or many hours than I had in the last like 4 months. Like, just because now you can earn, like the game loop's more fun. Like it's way more addicting. Like it was fun before, like the game loop hasn't changed other than the fact that now like when I'm racing, like I'm earning tokens, and it really does make the world of difference. You know, it makes the game like that much more sticky. And like that is, to me, I think what a good crypto game is about, and what, you know, people should be striving for.
Yeah, to answer your question on WAGME, I think that I really okay. So the thing is with these games is that the marketplaces always exist outside of like the games, and I think that makes the games suffer a little bit. But I understand why they have to do it. But I think that that's like the one change I would like to see. But other than that, I think WAGMI has like a really good plan and road forward for like what they want to do with their game. I do think that uh, at first the game to me was kind of like intimidating, but um, the one thing I will say about WAGMI is that they really have a strong community. Um, I got slashed last night by 4 or 5 dudes that some of them their medal score was like in the 7 digits, and I've never seen that before. And apparently, I played the best player in the entire community, so their community definitely pulls up, and they're very passionate about the game. So I will say that for WAGMI, they have really got down community. I'm sure when global launch comes out, they will have a bigger and robust community, especially because they do have a wave of streamers that have been playing the game for some time, and regardless if it's a paid gig or not, I'm sure people are going to be playing the game to have fun and enjoy, but also maybe to potentially earn. A lot of the things that I saw before I got involved with them was like people making money off the token and also the NFTs, like the in-game cards. So I definitely do see that WAGMI. And then now they have like an anime thing coming out too. So like they've really captivated and kind of secured their community, and I think they're just going to keep on building on that.
I'm still not super keen on the game, but I saw like Inhuman post something, and then under like Scott posted like a leak of like what it's going to look like, and it looked like a lot more cinematic. Is that kind of like what you all see is happening with
Yeah.
It's definitely going that direction for sure.
You know, to add to what the guys are saying here, in a nutshell, I think WAGMI actually has a pretty, you know, cool peer-to-peer economy around the game, which is important. It's been something that's organically been built, but because they have so much other stuff going on, it's not necessarily the focal point around the narrative of the game, which makes it, I guess, seem less. It makes it seem a little less Web3 to a lot of people, but it's actually one of the most Web3 games I've ever played because I'm playing the game. I'll get cards. I can turn those cards into rarer cards that then have their own secondary price. Some people collect the cards because they want to be within meta of that season, or they collect the cards because it's actually a collectible, almost like legacy item as WAGMI continues to grow, right? Having like a preseason, you know, Alien Emperor might be something that's collectible compared to like a season 5 Alien Emperor within their IP and their lore. So what I will say is the IP, the lore, the narrative that they're building is indirectly affecting the secondary floor price because now you're thinking of multiple things when you collect one of these assets and you're playing. My biggest critique on them, and this is a criticism that I've had openly in calls with Scott, is the token isn't integrated enough, and that concerns me personally. Because the game could exist without the token currently, right? It's all based on their NFT secondary marketplace, which for someone like me, it does give me a different level of dopamine. Being completely honest, like I wouldn't consider real-time strategy games really my shtick, but there is a certain level of satisfaction that I feel when I play WAGMI when I'm like on a call or something, and then because I won or I did well or something happens, like I get a certain amount of points. I go use those points to open a box. I get, you know, cards, stuff like that. So they also have been creating revenue, which I think is cool based on the royalty market and people purchasing, you know, like their Nefi gems in order to get products. So I think it's a small amount. It's like they've done 100K in revenue or profit or something like that. But like not many Web3 games in general are reporting any kind of revenue. So it was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I agree there. There's been a lot more content creators, I feel like, that they've onboarded and are excited for it. That again, I mean, I think that they were going through like a pretty low period, like about like 7 months ago, 8 months ago, and now things have like really turned around for them, which is like really, really interesting to see. And I think just also goes to show like if you have the right team, the right strategy, like you can really prop up your game, even though it might not be ready. Because WAGMI is not ready today. Like if it were to launch today globally, like, I don't think it would do super great. But they're working on their Web3 strategy like really well, and it's working for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it was interesting. I started working with them about 4 or 5 months ago. And when I first talked about them, like a lot of people were trying to FUD it, or they had certain comments about based on how WAGMI had handled things in the past. But it also goes to show, one, the attention span in the space is really small. And two, if you can just get a core group of gamers together and get them to consistently play your game and do shit, like you can also find a WAGMI lobby at any time, which helps a lot. The narrative is kind of going to just build itself to what it truly is, which is it's a good game with an interesting, Web3 gaming economy loop around it. It's not perfected, but that's kind of part of the experience. It's like work in progress.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The next thing that we have that, did launch is that Pudgy Penguins raised as well from Peter Thiel. I think it was like $11 million. Like Pudgy Penguins is one of those like consumer crypto applications that like I think a lot of people point to, and then also are building a game out. Has anyone been following with Pudgy Penguins at all? Is anybody a holder?
No, all I know is pretty often I'll see like a crypto ad like for Bitcoin or something, and it's using the freaking penguins. And that has anything to do with Pudgy Penguins other than they're killing it, right? Like they have Yuga had that with the apes. They've lost it. Penguins have been like the turtle versus the hare in the race, just like grinding and grinding and grinding. And they seem to be the most visible face of our entire industry to the public right now, like other than the orange bee, right? Like that's incredible. So, good for them. I don't really know what the hell they're doing, but it's working.
Yeah.
As far as I can see.
In my experience, all I've ever seen with Pudgies is like whenever I'm trying to look up a GIF, there's always like a Pudgy version.
There's always a freaking Pudgy GIF.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did this cut? It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to like upload the GIFs, but the fact that their community has done this forever, like literally almost every category that I can think of something that I want to look up, there's a Pudgy equivalent of it. So
that's not even from the community. That's straight from the dev team. Like Luca, when he first took over Pudgies, he said that was one of the core things that he was implementing into his strategy because
they wouldn't be appearing.
Yeah.
Right, they wouldn't be appearing like Surf It's so high, and the results said I see them frequently if there weren't a ton of people using them a lot. I assume.
Exactly.
I don't know how.
Like my mom has sent me Pudgy GIFs, and she doesn't
without even knowing, right?
And she doesn't even know it's them. Yeah, like
look,
my mom would be like, "Son, I miss you. You're working a lot. Love you." And it's like a
little hard penguin, right? Yeah. Dude, that's mass adoption. It's amazing.
I think Pudgy is just what you do. When you actually have true conviction in what you're doing, they just doubled down and did what they were going to do. Like it's the simplest roadmap I've ever heard from an NFT project. We're going to take for those of you guys that don't know the Pudgy story, like Luca got some funding, bought Pudgies from the original creator. So it's not like the Pudgy team even had like the original funding, and they essentially said, hey, we're going to turn this into a really strong, cute brand that is approachable for people outside of Web3. And we're going to do that through toys, product experiences. And that was it. And everyone flooded him for that. Everybody's like, that's a stupid fucking idea. What's that going to do for our floor prices? And Luca at that time was like, I don't really care about the floor price. I'm more like trying to build an actual business, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like the unsexiest answer you could give to a crypto investor or an NFT bro. But I mean, that's what they've done, and that's why they're having the success that they are, right? It was very simple.
Yeah, I agree. What is that called? Like a community takeover, right? In a meme coin?
Yep. Yeah. Community takeovers. It's interesting because like community takeovers have been a thing since like 2020. But like now it's the first time I'm seeing them referred to as like a CTO or as like a meta, which is cool. But yeah, essentially Pudgies is the most successful community. Well, no, SHIB is still the most successful community takeover, I think. But it's like the second most successful community takeover of all time. and most successful from an NFT perspective. And all they did was just build the brand, do cool stuff, like make Jiffies, make content that they put on, put their GIFs on Jiffy. I mean, make content that goes on. What's
You
up?
saying GIF? Jiffies?
GIFs.
What's happening here? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what?
I'm saying GIF like the peanut butter.
Hey, the creator of it said GIF, but I will still say
I
GIF.
know, but you're 30 years too late, as far as I'm concerned.
Putting GIFs, whatever the fuck, on Jiffy. That was like a super simple thing that anyone could do. Like, we even know how to do this at Catalyst, right? Like, that costs nothing to do. Maybe the animation costs, but that's about it. So, and then, the toy thing, all the branding and shit that they're doing. It's like an A1 class on how to fucking develop a Web3 native brand. And no one, I think like SEALs are paying attention and trying to do it, but I don't really see anybody else doing it.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they really figure out something with like their IP in terms of like gaming. It sounds like they were pushing like the Pudgy world pretty hard, but I haven't seen anything from it like since. And I'm pretty sure like the actual plushies were tied to the game in some way, shape, or form for like cosmetic purposes. So yeah, I'd love to see that.
I mean, I think they're kind of going the Club Penguin route, it seems like, right? We had someone that advised for them on our show on the Catalyst Effect once. His name was Randy Koch. He also works with whatchamacall. Yeah, fucking Hotto. I know. I said it just so I could get a crack at you. I know. Yeah, Rudy Koch. That's right, not Randy Koch. My bad. He advised for Pudgies on their gaming stuff. He's also one of the original founders of Mythical Games. So it seems like they're going a very Club Penguin kind of route with that whole ecosystem. But it's going to be something that it's going to take them a while. Like, I don't think it's in their immediate like pipeline of hype, Yeah,
agreed. The last thing that I wanted to talk about for this B.I.G was Atari coming back. Like, I actually posted about this a couple of days ago and got a lot of pushback from like Atari essentially launching a token on Harmony about a couple of years back and then just like essentially wrecking it and not really doing anything. And now they're partnering up with Base to launch like their on-chain arcade, which I think is pretty cool, but there isn't really anything to it. Has anybody played it? Anybody like participate in the Atari game or like project beforehand?
I have never touched an Atari product in my life. Well, actually, that's not true because Atari was a publisher for a little while, so I did play some of their games that came out on like PS4 or whatever. But yeah, I haven't touched that.
Nope, I'm not really like knowledgeable in anything Atari. I would love to learn more, but
so funny enough, I was working on the Harmony Network when Atari did their NFT launch on that. I was working on the NFT marketplace. And I mean, it was a pretty cool experience. I was pretty hyped at the time, and I was like doing some research as far as like what they were providing. And even back in 2021, like in their, not their bio, I'm looking at some document. But anyways, they had stated that basically they were only interested in like using their IP. They weren't really going to be creating anything. Like they just kind of wanted to slap their logo like whenever they could, and just like kind of see what works. And then yeah, like when everything started going down the shitter, like they just kind of bailed on everything. It sounds like what they're doing again isn't like that much different. I mean, they're just kind of using their old games, and you can play them and win some. I don't even know if it's tokens, maybe some prizes. I looked a little bit about it, but I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Yeah. What did you think back then? Like, was it pretty hype?
I mean, yeah, it was minimal. Like, it was just, like an Atari cartridge kind of thing. Like today's standards, it would be very low budget. Like, but it was cool at the time. I mean, by the time, then like NFTs were just very new, so it was just neat to have any sort of big company like put their brand on an NFT project. And for us, like we were a really small network, so for the fact that like we were doing a deal with like Atari was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, Harmony, I think is, from what I understand, was like DeFi Kingdoms, like was like the main game there. I think it still is. right?
Yeah. Well, no, the DeFi Kingdom moved off of Harmony like some years ago. But yeah, that was definitely the big project that got them like some notoriety. Not notoriety.
Harmony is
Uh,
the ticker. It says 1, right?
Correct.
It's so confusing. Why did they?
But then they suffered a huge exploit in their bridge and lost like millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they never really recouped after that.
Bad.
I don't know, man.
You should have had Jiho as their CEO.
I just don't understand why some games in this, or not games, but some of these like branding decisions, like why are you gonna like Matic and Polygon? It's the same thing, but
They're changing that, right? They're what are they doing? They have a new token coming. It's called Poly or Pol,
Yes, I heard about that. Poly.
and it's replacing Matic.
But it's like, what if they called Ethereum like?
Wait, are they what are they doing with the current token?
They're like just converting it, and they're putting some new tokenomics in it. It's never the best sign.
That never ends up.
That does not sound good.
It's never the best sign.
That does not sound good, bro.
They do continue to have very good tech hidden within their gigantic ecosystem of sometimes very conflicting nonsense, right?
There is something that JR. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was. What am I saying?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, JRP was talking earlier about how a lot of these networks have to talk to each other. It's very complicated and complex. And I want to offer a parallel or a comparison. The internet that we exist right now was very complicated at one point, but we got there, right? We had a bunch of different servers talk to each other, IP addresses, all that bullshit. So, like, I understand that the task is daunting, but that's the way that we move forward as an industry. It's like this tribalism thing. It's awesome. And honestly, I was a big anti-tribalism person. I was like, no, like let everyone connect together. And I think there should be some tribalistic tendencies within crypto, but you still have to bridge the gap somewhere, because you could say, like, I'm not using AOL Instant Messenger. I'm using MSN Messenger, right? Well, eventually everyone just conformed and used something different, right? And so, like, everyone that was on MSN or AIM or whatever, they all using Facebook or Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to like coexist somewhere, but there could be some tribalism.
Let's be honest. The Hotmail email addresses were always the coolest. Go ahead.
Dude, I had a 6-letter AIM account, and that thing got me the ladies back at the middle school dances. So easy to remember. That was some good shit. But Hato, that's like what you just said is exactly what I was kind of saying about, like, Polygon had some good tech that has snuck its way into a lot of other maybe like hotter projects, tech stacks. And like at the end of the day, like the difference with the Web 2 is like there isn't some token core to the HTTP protocol that some company invented that they still hold a huge amount of, that every single time anyone goes over HTTP is getting used in it, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's the potential of all of this. It's like I would never write someone like Polygon out long term, because there is going to be a final blockchain tech stack that obviously will evolve, but like much more slowly at a point, right? We're in this insane growth phase. We're in this insane invention of technology phase, like the internet in the late 80s, early 90s. It will consolidate around some very standardized solutions, which will be like Ethereum. Like people talk about Ethereum all the time. EVM is bigger than it's ever been, right? Like there are things that are going to become core to this final interoperable stack that the entire tokenized internet economy, which is eventually the entire internet, is built on top of. And if you are one of the people who built a piece of that, you're set for all of eternity, right? Your grandkids will be eating well of your company, right? So like I wouldn't, that's why I don't ever write them out, even if a lot of what they do seems like a lot of nonsense and they seem very confused and very, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I do agree. I think there's going to be like legacy stuff that gets touched within new stuff like that. That's where I kind of see the vision, where it's like it's connected World Wide Web, and it's like maybe we're not just fully doing one chain, we're doing multiple chains to do one thing.
Yeah. But people will just know about it as the blockchain. Like it'll be the internet, right? It'll just be what stuff is built on. And we're in the invention period right now where the new stuff, a lot of it is replacing the old stuff. But we'll start handing off into the kind of improvement and reinvention period where the new stuff isn't fundamentally rewriting or replacing the things that came before, but like adding on to it. Right. And that's where that permanence will start to happen.
Yeah, and it could fix a lot of issues too. Like I know layer 2s were like the first wave of that, but they weren't really full thought out, and they have their own issues too. So
yeah, they don't scale Ethereum, they fragment Ethereum. It's like an absolutely fundamental problem that no one was talking about, including me, before we understood this. But you know, if you've been paying attention to why layer 2s did not accomplish anything that everyone thought that they were going to, including freaking Vitalik, right? Like everyone thought that they were going to solve this problem, and they actually made it worse. And I think we've all learned a huge amount from that. Layer 3s will fix it, though.
And then layer 4 will fix layer 3.
Right? No, I mean, I'm always bullish on the Ethereum ecosystem. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that you have so many developers working on EVM that like, that's the thing, is that like the best tools is on EVM. Like all of the liquidity is on EVM. And as soon as you have people like Third Web, like literally everybody else, use layer 0 to like
Third Web drop.
Yeah, Third Web drop to essentially like move assets around seamlessly, then it's like, do you even need Solana? I personally don't think so, but I think that like there's still a good spot for it, like for specific use cases like meme coins. But like that's the whole conversation.
Well, you said you need Solana. I mean, they're about to, Visa's wrapping up their Mika shit with those stable coins. So I mean, they're all going to be used in some way or other. If you're talking about like what we are focused on, yeah, maybe Ethereum is the better choice than Solana for certain things. But in terms of like the entire ecosystem and what they're trying to like what the banksters are trying to get involved, the payment systems, they're all going to use different things: XRP, Ethereum, Cardano,
all these people are going to build their own shit because they want to control it, right?
Exactly.
Like, yes, JP Morgan partnered with Avalanche, but like JP Morgan also has a team that has built to their own internal blockchain, right? Like Avalanche's core business model allows them to try to swoop in on that and say like, hey, this is effectively your own blockchain, but it's also ours. Hey. But like all these people want to own their shit. Blockchain technology, like any company whose purpose is like, damn, isn't this stuff really complicated to build with? We can do it for you. That's a temporary business model.
Yep.
Totally right. The level of complexity will continue to come down. The expertise will continue to expand outwards. And the companies that are serving as something that simplifies that complexity because you don't have the expertise, they'll have to become increasingly specialized, right? And it'll just look like any other industry.
Yeah, and as regulations come out and like things are more clear to what I won't get sued by the SEC for, or you know, all that stuff, it's gonna like explode from there. It's gonna 10x like productivity because now people are like, all right, these are the rules. We don't have to worry about lawsuits. Like, go full send. This is what we can do, can't do. And by the way, even if there are securities within crypto land, you could still regulate them as securities and, you know, do things, right? It's just like the investing public now doesn't get the same, I guess, reach they have, because if you're not an accredited investor, you can't invest in securities usually. So,
yeah. That's a big question. With that, is there anything else that you all want to touch on before moving to ending the show? I did want to say, Hato,
I want to bring up this thing that some unnamed person, and I'm not being quiet, I don't know who the hell it was, on the Lizard Lookout space, who has some Web3 game studio, was talking about and arguing with me. I'm actually right now, I'm trying to find out who it was.
Sorry, my finger slipped.
Wait, let me just talk about something else for 1 second. Let me just finish this conversation with someone, see if I can get their name, because then I can actually talk about the project.
Oh shit, we talking shit for real? Okay. What do you think?
I just want to know. I want to know what it was. I want to know who it was.
What were you?
What I will say, what I will jump into is, you know, I'm actually a really, really big fan of EVM and the way that the tech works. But something that JRP said was Solana not working because, like, for example, like, why would you need Solana aside from meme coins? I would say because Solana culture in general, as memey as it is, it also does get, like, consumers better for the most part. for example, like Blinks being able to just sit on Twitter and spend money there, right? Like, why didn't someone on EVM invent that, right? Like, I think Solana does have a certain level of consumer-focused developer culture that it's just attracted. It's kind of similar to like, why would someone use a Microsoft? Why would someone use an Apple when Microsoft existed, right? Because Apple always spoke to the creatives. Like, they just knew how to build better tooling for creative people than Microsoft ever could. I think we're going to end up with that. Like, in the early computer wars, you had IBM, you had Microsoft, Apple, and a billion other people building computers. But eventually, it just basically has become, Linux, Apple, Microsoft as like the primary operating systems. And I'm willing to bet that like EVM is Microsoft and Solana ends up becoming like Apple.
Yeah, because it's public versus private infrastructure, right?
Yep.
And Solana is the clear leader in private infrastructure. Ethereum is the clear leader in public infrastructure. We want the internet to be built on Ethereum. A private company wanting to use blockchain technology for something they're building, they don't give a fuck about decentralization. They actually shouldn't decentralize. They want that control. And Solana is targeting exactly that, There's a big use case for it, regardless of the ethics and your morals and your beliefs in blockchain as a utopian idea and all this stuff, right? Like, this is its own thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let me shit on this guy. I haven't gotten the name yet. But so I was on the Lizard Lookout space, and they're down at Bitcoin Nashville. They're doing like a live space, and Jerry and I and like a couple of the people were remotely speaking on it, which did not work well. But the live space was cool. They were not at Bitcoin Nashville, though. They were at the Litecoin conference, which I guess, like the argument for Litecoin, they're like, we're here too. There's a Bitcoin conference. We have to have a little Litecoin conference. Anyway, I don't need to keep shitting on Litecoin for absolutely no reason. But so this guy was talking about Web3 game development. And he said, and maybe I'm going to misrepresent this a little bit, but he said that the problem with Web3 games is that tokens don't make sense in a game. He said that most games fail, and that if you're trying to invest in Web3 gaming, it makes much more sense to invest in a Web3 gaming studio, because that's where the profit comes in, not from the games, and you can hold the token. And, it's much more like you're holding, like he's like, you'd want to hold equity in EA, not in a specific game that they put out. And I responded to this, and I was like, I have a few problems with what you just said, which is like, first, all of the big gaming studios started by making good games and then grew into a studio, into a publisher. And I was like, second, I couldn't name a single example of a company that had a token and said, okay, this token is basically like owning shares in us. You get a piece of our profit, where that actually is what happened. It's just a shitcoin attached to the company's name, because you're not actually distributing profits to token holders. It's not fundamentally connected, unless you were to make it some sort of a governance token that in the base tokenomics, the success of people playing the game ties into the price action of the token. But then the token has to be integrated into the game for that to work, or it's not actually connected. And he says, I gotta say, that sounds like a consumer opinion to me. Which I was just like, he said, that sounds like a consumer opinion. He said that no gaming studio got rich making games. He said that they make a game, they use that game to raise a bunch of money from VCs into the studio, and then they use that money to make more bigger games. And that it's incredibly difficult to put a token into a game well. And so you just want to build games and then put the token into the studio side. And then I wasn't able to respond because they were doing this whole live thing and he couldn't even hear me. But I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? One, something being difficult doesn't make it a bad idea at the core. And two, you haven't answered any of the things I said about how the hell are you making your studio's revenue attached to your token price. Tell me that as you a US based company. How are you doing that? And third, no, that isn't how these gaming studios got started. Some people didn't start EA by saying, okay, we're gonna make a shitty small game and we're gonna like get some people playing it and we're gonna go raise a bunch of money. Like they just made some games and I didn't say that they got rich, like EA rich, from making good games. I said they started by making good games. And they got enough people playing their games to justify the creation of a larger studio.
Yeah.
So I hope I find out who this was. I asked Metamono, she hasn't responded yet.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I don't know. That's my rant.
To just talk about like it should be studio side again, legality questions. Like, is that legal? I don't know the answer.
Not
to
yet.
That. I don't think it is. And I don't think that tokens in games is an L. Like, I don't think that that's not possible. I think it's totally possible. I think it does work to a certain degree. It's just there's little things missing, right?
We just have to figure out how to do it well. I'm working on it for myself. I'm building it like I think I have a good idea for it. It's like not something that's really applicable to most other games because my game is very specific. But like there are tons of ways that you could integrate a token that is driven by your gameplay.
And how do you measure success? How do you measure success? Is it like the users are making money? Is the game company making money? Is everyone making money? Or is the price just going up?
And this is how you know it was nonsense. He was talking about it in the context of ETFs and of would you want to buy an ETF that is a basket of game tokens versus a basket of game studio tokens. And he's just like purely coming at this from the exact opposite direction that you should. You're saying most games fail.
If you're saying
you're saying my studio that's going to make a bunch of games will succeed.
If you're saying the studio needs to make the money to make more games, I agree with that. But also if you're saying that we needed to remove it from the retail, you're kind of like missing the point here. The point is to open it up for the community. That's the whole entire point. If that wasn't the point, then why the fuck are we here sitting in chairs talking? I
agree with you.
That's what the point is. It's community. Like it's a community-led thing. Yes, there has to be like a certain developer doing things, but the whole reason why you bring your game to Web3, this is my opinion, is to bridge the gap between community and developer. And how can you do that? With marketplaces, UGC, maybe opening battle passes to being able to be traded, assets within your game to be traded, true ownership and giving value for that ownership. And that value can come from developer side and community. That's how it should be. And that's how people have envisioned this whole process, but it hasn't really panned out that way. And I just don't think that what so-and-so kind of stated is the fix for that. I mean, that's
this is
a wound.
Yeah, like we keep saying that, like it's fundamentally, it sounds like he wants to build a bunch of Web 2 games and then launch a token to dump some of his VC money on the public and exit, right? Like,
well, it wouldn't even touch the public because if the whole concept is for studio and not within the community and gaming and stuff, then it's just like dumping on the studios because like is it even going to touch the community? And if there's
he's saying is that we'll have a studio token and that's what people can buy so they can share in our success. And
that just sounds like a stock to me.
It just sounds like a stock to me. Do you want to be saying this recorded with your face on camera?
I mean, they're already tokenizing stocks. Like you're just
right. But those things are registered as securities already, and they're adding a token mechanic. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
My Eureka's game token, we are registered as a security. My token, it doesn't even exist yet, has been registered as a security for almost a year now because it's a good strategy. More people should do it. But anyway, we should wrap this up, I guess. JRP had to go. He told me to wrap it up. Does anyone have any closing thoughts now that I'm Mr. Host?
I think to chime into that conversation, the guy is a fucking idiot. Just call it for what it is. Like, you can't have studio success without a game success, right? Like, and there's even looking at a studio, like I wouldn't want to invest into Blizzard. I would want to invest into World of Warcraft personally.
Yeah, because Blizzard makes a bunch of shitty missteps.
Yeah, like
that was forever.
I wouldn't want to invest into Microsoft. I wouldn't want to invest into World of Warcraft. Like, For example, Blizzard as a studio has made a fuck ton of missteps with most of their titles. The only title that they have that is actually having a renaissance right now is actually WoW. So why would I want financial upside in Overwatch and everything else that's a dumpster fire? Just give me more WoW token, personally. That's how I look at it. So to me, it's just like Ronin is the closest we have to this is Ronin, right? Like if you want to invest into the Ronin ecosystem and hedge all the games there, basically, you got the Ron token. But ask me how people that just invested in Pixels feel right now, right? Like some of them that bought it back when it was Barry, they're way up, right? Compared to Ron holders. So I mean, they're to me with Web3, it's always going to be both. Like you have the ecosystem token, but there's always going to be the individual token. And doing it any other way, you're just not a gamer. You just don't understand how economies and games could potentially or already do work. Just sounds like a fucking person that probably only played COD a couple times on the Xbox, threw gamer on his fucking title, and thinks he has an opinion. In my opinion,
I think he's running a studio. I feel like he's missing the entire, like, isn't our fundamental, like, core thesis as an entire Web3 gaming industry that isn't the core thing that is if you could find a way to drive a token's price from fundamentals of gameplay and had a massive number of people playing that game, that would be one of the strongest possible, most resilient tokens that could exist because it's built off of millions of people constantly playing a video game and never stop. Like, that's the whole thing we're doing. It is why we're doing this. And it's like he's doing it while he thinks that part's done.
Yeah.
in general, I believe that games have more lasting power than studios, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games that still people play, are still community supported, and those studios are long gone.
Yeah, so, like, getting into things like fully on-chain narratives and shit like that, like, I would much rather have upside in a game than I would in a studio on a token level.
I guess I could do my closing thought as a question. Do you guys believe that a studio could build a game in this space, disappear, and the game would still survive because it has a big enough community? Do you think that is possible?
I think depending the game, it could. Yeah. I mean, you have people taking over memes. Mm-hmm. It could happen with a game,
I think it'd be easier for fully on-chain games to have that capability.
Yeah, because
like I personally would love for something like that to happen, so I could take over a game.
This is my end game plan for Eureka. Like literally, my end of my decade-long timeline on Eureka is to get it to a place where the community fully takes it off of our hands, where you literally have people in Congress in the game sitting there who have been elected by players, voting to allocate server expenses to keep supporting the game. Like that I'm literally, that's my goal. I think that Web3 tech enables this better than anything has ever enabled it before. And the demand is clearly there. I still play Roller Coaster Tycoon. I'm playing OpenRCT 2, which is a community created game built off by modifying games 1 and 2 to kind of include the best parts of them and doing some UX updates. We all know games that are like this now, right? I'd rather own shares in chess than shares in whoever the dude who invented chess was, or woman. Because people are still playing that shit.
No, that's a deep call out. Roller Coaster Tycoon is something that, dude, I was so evil in that game. I used to make unfinished coasters and put people on there, and people would die.
That's the brilliance of Roller Coaster
Tycoon. The people put them in the water.
Right? Amazing. Same with Sims. You've never seen you want to know how you know someone's a sociopath is you watch them play The Sims. The shit they do.
You make a big city and then tornado.
I just have this memory of this girl sitting on a school laptop in my grade in 10th or 11th grade in the library, and she's playing The Sims, and she just has a little house and she has a whole family in it, and there's literally soiling themselves, and there's no exit, and it's a catastrophe in there, and she's just laughing as she sets it on fire. I'm just holy shit.
Serial killer vibes, bro.
Anyway, any other closing thoughts, or should we leave it there?
I think we got it. Sersky, anything?
We got it. Sersky, anything? We got it. I don't know how to turn this shit off, but good space.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in next week,
Thanks for watching.
and we'll see you later.